Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you to the City of Bel Air Beach Board of Adjustment hearing for December 13, 2023. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before I go ahead and have the clerk call the roll, Kyle, as city manager, would you introduce us to the new city clerk?
Yes, Chair. Board, this is Renee Rose. She's our new city clerk, and she relocated all the way from the state of Kansas, where she had experience working for the city of Gardner, Kansas, for 19 years, where she was city clerk there for almost 5.
Renee, welcome. Glad to have you. You wised up and you came here today.
We're the winner, even better.
We'll go easy on you tonight, Renee. Okay, with that in mind, I'd like Renee to go ahead if she wouldn't call the roll.
Board Member Marv Bain.
Here. Push the button there, Mark. I did.
Alternate Board Member Mark Mariano.
Present.
Board Member Fred Elia.
Here.
Board Member David Gardella.
Here.
Board Member Tony Gatliff.
Here.
Vice Chair Jane Mason Goldman.
Here.
Chair Mike Kelly.
Here.
And City Manager Kyle Riefler.
Here.
Thank you. I'd like to go ahead and ask the board to take a look at in their packet at the minutes of our October 12th, 2023 meeting. If there's any questions, please go ahead and ask. If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Gardella. We have a second?
Second.
Mr. Bean, thank you. All in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Minutes are approved. At this point, I'd like to ask the people in the audience, if you intend tonight to speak, please rise and be sworn in by our city clerk.
Do you solemnly declare or affirm that the testimony that you are about to give in these proceedings is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
I'm going to read the procedure we're going to follow tonight and the rules that we will review. When it's your turn, I will actually read the variance request, at which point I will ask City Manager to go ahead and make a staff report. Then we'll ask you as the applicant or the applicant's representative to come to the podium, make a statement, take as long as you'd like, and then we're going to open the case up for open discussion amongst the board members and amongst anybody in the audience that would like to additionally come to the podium. At that point, part of our rule and procedure is a list of criteria. We have 6 different criteria that the board will review and vote on one at a time, and that the applicant must receive a positive response to each of these 6 in order for a variance to be approved. At that point, we'll have a motion and a second on the application request and a roll call vote. So at this time, I'd like to start with the first variance. Kyle, do you think the applicant is going to come in?
Not on Zoom right now. We'll check after I get done.
I mean, we can flip-flop. We can go to the next one if you want.
No, he was aware he was first, so let's just go with it.
Okay. Is there anybody else that would be here representing Dr. and Amy Shull who will be talking tonight? Okay, not yet. I'm just glad we have a representative. Okay, we'll go ahead with it then. This is variance request number 23-13 at 2235 Donato Drive for Dr. and Amy Shull, requesting a variance from Division 2 Swimming Pool Section number 10-174. In a nutshell, because we have requirements saying that the pool cannot be built higher than 18 inches higher than the crown of the road, the applicant is requesting the construction of a pool 16.92 inches above the maximum height allowed by city code. Sir, you can come to the podium. give us your name and a little bit about the case?
Yep, absolutely. My name is John Von Steenberg. I'm just here representing Vic and Amy Scholl, the contractor for the customers here. As a lot of these properties are being built higher and higher above the crown of the road, it's becoming increasingly more difficult to try to get our pool deck elevations down within 18 inches of the crown of the road. In this particular case, the back lanai, the rear lanai, is 7.9 feet above the crown of the road. So we've taken the steps as far down to the existing grade as possible. And that is, the ideal place for the pool and the pool deck. It's getting tricky. The flip side of this is you put in a separate retaining wall to hold back the grade from, the center of the property or near the house. The issue is still the same. You still wind up with retaining walls bringing you down to the actual elevation of the pool deck. So that's basically the issue.
You're saying that you had a difficulty getting it down to that elevation?
We got it down to the lowest point that we could to existing grade. So basically the elevation at the back of the rear of the house at the existing grade was the finished floor height is 7.18 feet, 7.81 feet above the crown of the road. And we brought the steps down as low as we could, basically, which put us at existing grade, which was 34.92 inches above the crown of the road. And that is where we were asking for the variance request.
Did you know at the time that you applied for your application and your permit at Bel Air Beach that this law existed?
No, at the time that I dealt with it maybe about 10 years ago on a job in Bel Air Beach on an interior lot. But the seawall itself on this particular lot is at nearly the same elevation as the crown of the road. So the seawalls keep coming up. So no, to answer your question, I didn't know it applied to this particular property.
Because this is something that the city watches very carefully,
Yeah, I
especially
do
in the
understand.
last 3 years, including some members of this board
Understood.
who had to apply for variances because of this law.
Yes.
We've had multiple cases on a regular basis for this particular requirement. The city council is going to review it in 2024, but at the time you went ahead and built the pool, and now this is an after-the-fact variance, is what
Correct.
you're saying.
Yes.
This is not pre-construction, this is post-construction.
Correct.
Okay. Anybody on board, any questions?
Did you apply for the permit?
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
And I did all the permitting for it. There was the plans that I was working off for the, from the builder, the plans that I was working off, there was some things on there that maybe weren't as clear to me as they should have been. And could I have gotten the pool down maybe another 6 inches into grade? Possibly. But at the time, basically going off those plans, I got it as low as I could on those particular
Did
plans.
your permit request reflect where the pool was going to end up?
We were 7 inches off, basically, I think, on our permit request. And the inspector, when he went out to catch it, he caught it on the final inspection, which, we brought to our attention then, and that's when we made the variance application.
Your application got through the city.
Correct. We have permission from both adjacent neighbors, stating that it doesn't adversely impact their drainage. I work in 35 municipalities. This is the only one that has this rule on the books. Most of them are going towards the FEMA requirements, which are 12 inches above adjacent grade at any point. And that's kind of the direction it seems like most of the beach municipalities are going towards, which is reasonable, I think. This
The
is-
butters from both the budding neighbors.
Yes, they're both included in the variance application.
We're a unique community. We have tough laws, especially on pools.
Yeah.
It's not a coincidence. We're very careful about the safety for our residents. We don't let you use angle of repose.
Yes.
The pool contractors try to use all the time to get closer than 5 feet. This city says no. It's written in our codes. We don't allow it.
Yes, I understand. I had that, I had applied for an angle repose on this as well, and it was denied, so we made an adjustment to the pool.
That's right. It's welcome to our city. We're glad you're building a pool. Now please abide by our laws. You're
Understand?
here tonight because of a variance that was post-construction, because you basically got caught.
It was unintentional, and,
That's
but,
why you're here.
yep, that's why I'm here.
Anybody else on the board? Marv, anybody? Mark? Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak? Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry, we didn't do a staff report, but you can
I just
follow
want to
the
say,
applicant.
for the record, the permit, when it came through, got approved, it was within the 18 inches above the crown of the road.
Okay?
So it did not slip past the city. I don't have it in front of me right now, but I just,
And I can verify that. There was a mistake made on my end, basically looking at plans. I had two different surveys for the property showing two different crowns of the road. And so it was, it was a mistake on my end, but one that, I'm here to, try to get corrected tonight, so.
You did say that you have neighbors on both sides that we've received letters from that do not object.
Correct.
Kyle, there's no issues, stormwater runoff, et cetera, et cetera?
no, sir.
Okay. Go ahead, David.
You were saying in 2024, the city council is going to address this. Since I've been on the board here, probably 90% of our variance requests are related to this pool and crown.
Right.
Are we not going to have this in the future, hopefully? Because it seems like it's a common...
Kyle?
I can speak to that. We have the code review project starting in January. So we just piggybacked a contract to start with a planner to go through all the building code. That's on the list.
It is on the list.
Yeah, and that'll be done sooner rather than later because it's going to become less restrictive, so we're not bound by the Senate bill to wait till October 2024.
That's good news. All right, thank you, Colin.
Any other questions, any other comments from the board?
So, I have a question, because I'm trying to now think about, what is...
Mark, you want to slide up to the microphone, I'm closer. Thank you.
No, it's not. Very good, thank you. Was this house demo, rebuilt, ground up?
Yes.
Really?
I don't think there was...
Across the street,
Vacant
Oh.
lot.
across the street from you.
Sorry,
Yeah,
it was
ground up, right?
but it was a new construction build.
Yeah, I would say, for the record, we can address this on a lot of existing structures.
Mhm.
Demo, ground up, built, if they're gonna put a pool in, we should try to alleviate the delta for the height criteria if they're building new. It's a little bit easier, it's almost impossible to fix on an existing structure.
Right.
You can't, it's, the structure's there. But on a demo rebuild, you can kind of make the numbers work.
That's a very important statement.
The horse is out of the barn, the house is built, and everything looks beautiful. It's a really nice, and I don't have any issues with it, but on a new build, it's a different situation.
That's a very, very big issue right now. Bel Air Beach has always had the attitude, and I'll move closer, that if you're building new, you can comply with our laws. You can comply with our setbacks. You can comply with our elevations. There shouldn't really be a need for any variance if you are doing a new build, just like the statement you made. You're a contractor, you're a developer, you understand that. In Tony's case, he took an existing home and we had to deal with the elevations that he had. You are here on a new build and we'll adjudicate this to the best way that we can. The helpful part is that your neighbors agree with this and you don't have any water running off into their backyard. So,
I would,
Go ahead, Mark.
just to tie a bow on that, I think, Kyle, as we look at establishing some new criteria for the building code in this specific situation, I think there should really be two buckets, existing structures versus new build. Because when you're building new, you can fix grades. And if someone's going to put a pool in and it's put in, let's say, a year or two after a new build, we might want to put stipulations or permit that say, look, if you're going to put a pool in, the pool's gonna need to meet code. So they should take into consideration up front where that elevation of the finished floor goes in order to satisfy whatever the code ends up being.
Okay, yeah, noted.
The pool's built and completed, correct?
Correct. And to be clear, I have no involvement in the home building. I was brought in after the home was already, basically under roof. And that's when we were brought in. But it is becoming increasingly more difficult as FEMA's requiring these houses to have finished floor heights at 10 feet. So you have a house that's 10 feet above sea level, usually somewhere around 7 feet above the top of a retaining, of the seawall. So it's something where it's becoming more difficult to try to find that common ground on some of these new builds. On some of the older builds, it's actually easier sometimes because the finished floor height is below 10 feet. So it is definitely just a tricky situation and a unique to Bel Air Beach.
Kyle, we ready? Thank you.
That's all I have.
This time, we're going to go ahead and move on to our 6 criteria questions that each applicant must receive approval on. And I will ask Vice Chairman Jane Goldman if she'll go ahead and read each of these questions, after which our clerk will call the roll. Ms. Goldman.
Okay. Number 1, you demonstrated that special conditions or unique circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved, and which are not applicable to other similar structures or buildings in the same zoning district. Yes, the variance is approved. No, the variance is denied.
Renee, if you'll go ahead and call the roll.
Mr. Beam?
No.
Mr. Mariano?
Yes.
Mr. Elia?
Yes.
Mr. Gardella?
Yes.
Mr. Gatliff?
Yes.
Ms. Goldman?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
That's 6 yeses and 1 no.
Thank you.
Okay, so number 2, you demonstrated that the variance requested is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. Yes, the variance is approved. No, the variance is denied.
Mr. Beam?
No.
Mr. Mariano?
Yes.
Mr. Elia?
Yes.
Mr. Gardella?
Yes.
Mr. Gatliff?
Yes.
Ms. Goldman?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Again, that's 6 yeses and 1 no.
Thank you.
Number 3, have they demonstrated that granting the variance will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by this chapter?
Mr. Beam?
No.
Mr. Mariano?
Yes.
Mr. Elia?
Yes.
Mr. Gardella?
No.
Mr. Gatliff?
Yes.
Ms. Goldman?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
5 yes and 2 no.
Number 4, demonstrated that the variance requested does not change the use of the property from the use characteristics mandated for districts 1 and 2 in sections 30 through 51 and 94-252 in Article 4, Division 3 of this chapter. Yes, the variance is approved. No, the variance is denied.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Mariano?
Yes.
Mr. Elia?
Yes.
Mr. Gardella?
Yes.
Mr. Gatliff?
Yes.
Ms. Goldman?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
7 yes.
Number 5, will comply fully with additional conditions and safeguards which the Board of Adjustment may prescribe, including but not limited to reasonable time limits within which the action for which a variance is required shall commence and or be completed. Yes, the variance is approved. No, the variance is denied.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Mariano?
Yes.
Mr. Elia?
Yes.
Mr. Gardella?
Yes.
Mr. Gatliff,
Yes.
Ms. Goldman,
Yes.
and Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Okay, number 6, have they demonstrated that the variance requested does not violate any provision and requirements set forth in Chapter 62 and Chapter 74 of the City Code? Yes, the variance is approved. No, the variance is denied.
Mr. Beam,
No.
Mr. Mariano,
Yes.
Mr. Elia,
Yes.
Mr. Gardella,
No.
Mr. Gatliff,
Yes.
Ms. Goldman,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
5 yeses and 2 nos.
Would anyone like to go ahead and make a motion regarding this variance request 23-13?
I'll make a motion that we approve variance request number 23-15.
Thank you, Mr. Mariano. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tony.
I think he said variance 2315, is it 2313?
13?
23-13.
Oh, I'm sorry.
13.
You want me to restate?
Okay. Mr. Mariano, would you like to go ahead and make that motion on variance request 2313?
I move that we approve variance request 2313.
Thank you, sir. And our second was?
A second.
Tony?
Thank you, Tony. Renee, if you go ahead and call the roll.
Mr. Beam,
No.
Mr. Mariano,
Yes.
Mr. Elia,
Yes.
Mr. Gardella,
Yes.
Mr. Gatliff,
Yes.
Ms. Goldman,
Yes.
and Mr. Kelly.
Yes. Sir, your variance is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming this evening. Please tell your applicant that the city is glad he's here, new construction, but in the future, you, with more pools to be built in Bel Air Beach, you'll know that law, and come to our city with the approval of no more than 18 inches, or come back and see us for a variance.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, that concludes 23-13. Our next variance request is 23-14 at 530 Belle Isle Drive. Kristen Whitfield is requesting a variance for the, number 1, for the same thing that we just voted on, where the construction of a pool is to be built more than 18 inches higher than the road by what the request is 2.4 inches above the maximum height allowed by city code. Kyle, if you can go ahead and make a staff report regarding this case.
So, so the first variance is for the elevation code about being 18 inches above the crown of the road. In this case, the crown of the road elevation is 5.1 feet, and the proposed pool deck elevation is 6.8 feet. So when you break that down into inches, as the engineer did in the report, that is asking for a variance of 2.4 inches above the maximum of 18 inches above the crown of the road. There's a second, do we want to talk about the second variance?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. There's a second variance request, and that is on Division 2 swimming pools, section 10-174 I-3, and that states that swimming pools may be located closer to 12 feet from the seawall so long as the minimum setback of 8 feet is maintained from the center of the seawall cap to the inside of the pool wall, and provided that prior to the issuance of a construction permit, a signed and sealed certification from a Florida registered engineer is submitted with the permit application showing that the reduced setback will not affect the integrity or function of the seawall, or that the approved seawall reinforcement, if needed, will be installed and complete in a minimum of 30 days prior to the time of the swimming pool construction. So, in this, the plan for this pool, they're asking with an engineer letter certifying the plan, they're asking that the pool is 5.5 feet away from the center of the seawall cap. So the minimum per code says that it can be up to 8 feet from the center of the seawall cap if the engineer gives that certification. In this case, asking that they can go closer than the 8 feet to 5.5 feet. So they're asking for a variance of 2.5 feet closer to the actual, into the minimum setback, which would be 8 feet.
Thank you. Any questions now before the applicant comes forward?
So the code is 12 feet from the seawall for the edge of the pool.
So the inside edge of the
deck can be
pool-
right up to the deck can be right up to the cap, but the
That-
shell of the pool can't be 12 feet closer.
So measure from the inside wall of the pool, regularly, it can be 12 feet from the center of the seawall cap. And then if you have an engineer certify it, you can get closer, up to 8 feet from the center of the seawall cap.
And I noticed the engineer's report in there, he's fine with the new seawall being built, tiebacks being installed according to the plan, that he's fine with the integrity of the seawall.
There is a letter included in the application that states that.
And the neighbors on either side are in support of it.
There are two neighbors that are okay with the proposed plan.
And I think that's a neighbor to the south and a neighbor to the north.
Yes,
Kyle, this is a new build, right? This is a house that's under construction?
yes. This is a demo rebuild.
Sorry?
I believe this is a demo rebuild.
Okay. But right now, during the course of this variance request, the house is under construction or is it finished?
It's under construction.
Okay.
Hey Cal, I have a question. So with the engineering certificate, then he's allowed to go 8 feet to the seawall, but he's requesting to go 5.5 feet to the seawall, correct?
Correct.
All right.
For the,
Well, engineer's certificate to say he can go 8 feet
Yep.
is based on the current seawall, right? Where this is now based on the new plans with the new setback, or the new tiebacks, is why he's saying 5.5 is fine?
So, yes, it's the engineer letter, which is following the plans, says a replacement seawall plan with a span beam, cap, and anchoring system has been designed to accommodate the proposed pool. It is attached for your review. And then it says the attached proposed pool plan shows the pool being constructed within 5 feet of the seawall cap and 10 feet from the north line of the property. And I believe in the plan that our engineering review is where he determined it was 5.5.
See, in Reuben Carlson's letter, he said, if the
Yes.
replacement seawall system and new pool is constructed per the attached plans,
Well, if you look at the
You have
attached
to-
plans, the tiebacks on either side of the proposed pool, they got 5 or 6 tie rods coming in where the other ones only have 2. So it looks like they are reinforcing the tiebacks
right,
on either side of the pool shell to compensate for the closeness of the pool. Is that right? It looks like that.
but it would be important for this, for, as he said, if the new seawall system, new pool is constructed per the attached plan, so, I guess my only concern would, how do we make sure that whoever builds a seawall, that they do build it by those plans and don't make any adjustments on the fly, as some seawall builders do. I mean, is that something we can kind of keep track of?
Yeah, that's the responsibility of the building department with the
Okay.
county. Yeah.
I want to give the board a little bit of history about our seawall setback. For years and years and years, Bel Air Beach has always had a 12-foot setback. Up and down the waterfronts, you have seawall contractors that have put the anchors, nicknamed dead men, 12 feet away. I mean, this goes back into the 60s. Basically, a lot of the seawalls were built during the 60s. This board started getting, in the 80s, more and more requests for variances to get closer than the 12 feet. Pinellas County, in approximately 1980-81, who was also, their Board of Adjustment was also being bombarded by bigger pools and closer to the request for closer to the seawalls, went ahead and decided that with a seawall engineer's authorization and a system that was acceptable within the protocol of the marine engineer, that they would go to a minimum distance from the seawall of 8 feet with engineering. Because they said, we don't want any more variances. This is Pinellas County saying, we don't want any more of these variances. I can't tell you how many, as a pool contractor, that I took before the county. And they finally said, this is crazy, we're getting too many pools at every single one of our variance meetings. They went to 8 feet with the full intent that there would be no more variance requests for pools, period. About 2 years later, we, after being bombarded in our little town for pools closer than 12 feet, we went to 8 feet. County's city council chose to go to 8 feet and no more variances on pools. This group has been bombarded in the past 2 years with the same law, with pool on another law, which our council's gonna look at. But the intent back in that 82, 84 period with our council was, we don't want any more pool variances. 8 feet, that's it. Welcome to our city, live with it.
But that was based on preserving the integrity of the seawall.
Precisely.
So if they get an engineer's report here that says seawall's integrity is not compromised by this plan, we kind of look, that's an answer to our concern. That would be an answer to our concern.
It's an answer to our concern, but our setbacks are premier with us. You know, our 25 foot in the front, or 25 feet in the rear, those are set in stone for the structures.
Right.
Our 5 feet off the house, as I mentioned to the previous pool contractor, we don't allow you to get any closer than 5 feet. So we've got 5 feet off the building and 8 feet in the rear with engineering without having to come before this board. I haven't asked the applicant up yet. I intend to, but that is the nature of why we have an 8-foot rear setback. Kyle, any further information?
That is all.
Any more questions from board members of Kyle? Go ahead, Mark.
As far as safety, the insurance company or the city for allowing us, where do we stand on that one?
I mean, would
Yeah.
Would
In other
insurance,
words, okay, we grant the variance to go 2.5 foot or 3 foot closer. Where does that leave the city stand or our board stand when you first time through the changes without consulting
An outside engineer.
another engineer, or at least to get some kind of an idea of where everybody else, what everybody else is doing?
Talking the insurance rating for the city?
Right. It could affect insurance rates.
sure.
Well, I mean, it's a valid question. Do we take liability in approving a variance like this if the seawall collapses?
I wouldn't think so, but
We
I
have a
think,
signed document from the engineer.
right.
Yeah.
I
So
think
is
that-
he accepting liability, is what you're
Well,
saying?
he is accepting liability. Do we accept, he is definitely accepting liability. Do we accept it with him by agreeing with him?
I would think we would. Kyle, what do you think? You'd have to go to Randy for an answer.
I would, you'd have to look at case law.
Marv, are you saying, are we hanging ourselves out to dry? Are we,
I think we'd leave it, the city would be wide open for the lawsuit.
okay. Good comment, good question. Any other questions for Kyle before we ask the applicant to come forward? If not, would Ms. Whitfield or a representative at 530 Belle Isle please come to the podium? Please introduce yourself, sir.
Good evening. My name is Mike McNay. I'm representing Freestyle Pools, the pool builder.
Okay. Go ahead, sir, and give us some information.
So the first variance request we're asking for is about 2.5 inches higher than the 18 inches above the crown of the road. Currently, that's roughly what the grade is at the house now. That's 6.75, that's already what grade is. So if we were to, we'd have to actually lower the grade to get the deck in and remain at that 18 inches. It would also add an additional step coming off the new construction house that we're trying to eliminate as well. So we're right at 7.5 inch risers with 5 steps, 6 risers coming down, and that gets us at about 2.5 inches higher than the crown, 18 inches above the crown of the road.
One of the things that we ask, and that's crucial to us, is this the minimum variance request? You're saying 2.4 inches is the best you can do without having to comply with our code?
Correct. That's already what grade is right there. If you look at the site plan on the building plan, grade's already at about 6.7 on the back of the house.
So your slab is 10.6 and you want to drop it down to 6.7, 6.8, basically the top of your coping?
The slab of the house is actually higher than that, and yes, roughly at the edge of the patio, which is already a step down with pitch, is at about 10.6.
Is that patio built?
Is the patio in?
Nothing
The patio's not in.
Go ahead. I just had a question. Keep going. If
That's
there's
okay,
any more.
that's basically it. We're asking for the 2.5 inches for the height to eliminate adding another step or lowering the grade in the back even further.
If you had to add another step, 2.4 inches is basically a toe stone.
Correct,
So you'd probably go 4 inches or 6 inches or whatever,
correct,
in which case you would be in compliance with our code.
correct.
Okay.
Which we'd have to lower the grade that's already existing in the back even further. The yard's already at that elevation in the back.
But in the rear, you're probably going to do something to get closer to that 5.3 seawall grade. So I'm sure there's step downs of some sort.
There will be on
Or
the back of the
retaining
deck.
walls.
Correct, there will be a retaining wall on the back.
Okay. Does everybody on the board understand what's going on here? I mean, we're close. 2.4 inches is doable.
This. It's this.
Okay, yeah, it's less than that.
Toast up.
Yeah, yeah. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Ma'am, would you like to speak? You're welcome to.
Not for this one, thank you.
Okay. In that case, we're going to go ahead and go through our criteria questions. Ms. Vice Chairman?
Yes, me again. Okay, number one. Have you demonstrated that special conditions or unique circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land structure or building involved and which are not applicable to other similar structures or buildings in the same zoning district? Yes, variance approved, no, variance denied.
Mr. Beam?
This is going to be on 2314.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Mariano?
Yes.
Mr. Alia?
Yes.
Mr. Gardella?
Yes.
Mr. Gatliff?
Yes.
Ms. Goldman?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
7 yes.
Number two, have you demonstrated that the variance requested is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure? Yes, variance approved, no, variance denied.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Mariano?
Yes.
Mr. Alia?
Yes.
Mr. Gardella?
Yes.
Mr. Gatliff?
Yes.
Ms. Goldman?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes. Yes.
7 yes.
Third question, have you demonstrated that granting the variance will not confer on this applicant any special privilege that is denied by this chapter? Yes, the variance is approved, no, the variance is denied.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Mariano?
Yes.
Mr. Alia?
Yes.
Mr. Gardella?
Yes.
Mr. Gatliff?
Yes.
Ms. Goldman?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
7 yes. Okay, number 4, demonstrated that the variance requested does not change the use of the property from the use characteristics mandated for districts 1 and 2 in sections 30-51, 94-252, and Article 4, Division 3 of this chapter. Yes, variance approved, no, variance denied.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Mariano?
Yes.
Mr. Alia?
Yes.
Mr. Gardella?
Yes.
Mr. Gatliff?
Yes.
Ms. Goldman?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
7 yes. Okay, number 5. The applicant will comply fully with additional conditions and safeguards which the Board of Adjustment may prescribe, including but not limited to reasonable time limits within which the action for which a variance is required shall commence and or be completed. Yes, the variance is approved. No, the variance is denied.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Mariano?
Yes.
Mr. Alia?
Yes.
Mr. Gardella?
Yes.
Mr. Gatliff?
Yes.
Ms. Goldman?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
7 yes.
Okay, 6, has the applicant demonstrated that the variance requested does not violate any provision and requirements set forth in Chapter 62 and Chapter 74 of the City Code? Yes, the variance is approved. No, the variance is denied.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Mariano?
Yes.
Mr. Elia?
Yes.
Mr. Gardella?
Yes.
Mr. Gatliff?
Yes.
Ms. Goldman?
Yes.
And Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
7 yes.
Would any member of the board like to make a recommendation or a motion on case number 23-14?
Motion approved.
Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Bean.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Mariano. If you'll call the roll, Renee.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Mariano?
Yes.
Mr. Elia?
Yes.
Mr. Gardella?
Yes.
Mr. Gatliff?
Yes.
Ms. Goldman?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes. Your variance to construct a pool 2.4 inches above the maximum height, 18 inches, allowed by city code is approved. Don't go away, we're doing another one. Okay, the second variance that we have for this particular residence is to, got it on this one, thanks, is to construct a pool that encroaches 2.5 feet into the minimum setback allowed by city code. That minimum setback that we're talking about, as Kyle explained, is 8 feet off the seawall. That, well, you want to be 5.5 feet from the seawall, not 8 feet off the seawall. Again, got some basic questions for you. We're always concerned about a hardship. This pool hasn't been built yet.
Right.
We know you're dealing with simple math. You've got 25 feet in the rear to deal with. You've got 5 feet off the house, and 8 feet off the seawall gives you a 12-foot wide pool, right?
Correct.
There's 4 or 5 members of this board that have pools that are on waterfront, that are no more than 12 feet wide, and they're safe pools. But this request is for what reason? Why do you want a wide pool?
Just to utilize more of the pool, to create a pool larger than 12 feet, to have a larger, safe swimming area.
Any comments? Any questions?
Was there any consideration to narrow the pool at all from this 15-foot, 7-inch? Is there any,
That'll be up,
is there any leeway? Was there
yes,
discussion of that?
if you say, if you guys do not allow the 5.5 feet, I'm sure they will welcome whatever you will allow.
I mean, the fact that we have, and I'm being in the real estate industry for my whole career, Ruth Larson is the guru of seawall construction in the industry. Everybody gets their opinions from Ruth Larson Engineering, very well respected. And, I mean, the seawall has been replaced on this property, if I'm not mistaken, already.
Is there a new wall going in?
Yes, sir.
Well, there's a new wall going in, but I think even the existing wall before the house was torn down is not the original seawall.
I do not know the history of the,
It's not a cement seawall, it's a corrugated wall, so I think the wall's already been replaced. Probably doesn't need to be replaced again, other than for the fact that it's pool and the fact that the applicant is willing to take that step to put a new wall in, engineered properly for this consideration. I don't see an issue with it in my mind.
I'm going to read one more thing that we have, because the buzzwords, as we know, regarding variances are there special conditions or unique circumstances that exist on this land. That'll be a question that we'll answer pretty quickly. But one of the conditions in the application that we read, that the applicant reads and turns in, talks about special conditions or unique circumstances will not result from the, and I'm going to highlight these words, the intentional act of the applicant or the applicant's agent. This pool isn't built.
correct.
Does it have a hardship? I'm not sure about that one, but they have to demonstrate. that the special condition or unique circumstance exists. To go with a larger pool, in my mind, rather than what the code will accept, is an intentional act on the part of the applicant. Opinion only, we'll vote on this, but that is what we must abide by. The beginning of the sentence that I didn't start says, "A variance granted by the Board of Adjustment shall be consistent with the public interest when owing to a special condition and the literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter. They will not result in an unnecessary and undue hardship to the applicant." That's a little lofty as to what we're talking about, but when this board votes, you'll understand. Any questions? Again, does anybody else in the audience want to talk before we vote? Okay. Madam
Okay.
Vice Chair.
We're talking about variance request 23-15. This is basically the setback. The first question is, has the applicant demonstrated that special conditions or unique circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved, which are not applicable to other similar structures or buildings in the same zoning district? Yes, the variance is approved. No, the variance is denied.
Mr. Beam?
No.
Mr. Mariano?
No.
Mr. Elia?
No.
Mr. Gardella?
No.
Mr. Gatliff?
No.
Ms. Goldman?
No.
Mr. Kelly?
No.
7 noes.
Number 2, has the applicant demonstrated that the variance requested is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure? Yes, the variance is approved. No, the variance is denied.
Mr. Beam?
No.
Mr. Mariano?
No.
I'm sorry?
No.
Mr. Elia?
No.
Mr. Gardella?
Yes.
Mr. Gatliff?
Yes.
Ms. Goldman?
No.
Mr. Kelly?
No.
Number 3, I'm sorry, Renee.
5 noes and 2 yeses.
What was our first one? 7 up?
7.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, has the applicant demonstrated that granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by this chapter? Yes, the variance is approved. No, the variance is denied.
Mr. Beam?
No.
Mr. Mariano?
No.
Mr. Elia?
Nope.
Mr. Gardella?
Yes.
Mr. Gatliff?
Yes.
Ms. Goldman?
Nope.
And Mr. Kelly?
No.
5 noes and 2 yeses.
Number 4, has the applicant demonstrated that the variance requested does not change the use of the property from the use characteristics mandated for districts 1 and 2 in sections 30-51 and 94-252 and Article 4, Division 3 of this chapter? Yes, the variance is approved. No, the variance is denied.
Mr. Beam?
No.
Mr. Mariano?
Yes.
Mr. Elia?
No.
Mr. Gardella?
Yes.
Mr. Gatliff?
Yes.
Ms. Goldman?
Yes.
And Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Okay, got 2 no and 5 yes.
Okay, number 5, we're almost done. Applicant will comply fully with additional conditions and safeguards which the Board of Adjustment may prescribe, including but not limited to reasonable time limits within which the action for which a variance is required shall commence and or be completed. Yes, variance approved. No, variance denied.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Mariano?
Yes.
Mr. Elia?
Yes.
Mr. Gardella?
Yes.
Mr. Gatliff?
Yes.
Ms. Goldman?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
7 yes.
Number 6, has the applicant demonstrated that the variance requested does not violate any provision and requirements set forth in Chapter 62 and Chapter 74 of the City Code?
Mike, can we have a refresher on 62 and 74?
Kyle, 60, which one's stormwater management?
62 is utilities and 74 is stormwater.
Stormwater management. Thank you, Mark. Go ahead.
Mr. Beam?
No.
Mr. Mariano?
No.
Mr. Elia?
No.
Mr. Gardella?
Yes.
Mr. Gatliff?
Yes.
Ms. Goldman?
No.
Mr. Kelly?
No.
That's It's 5 no and 2 yes.
Okay, in that the applicant must get all 6 criteria in the affirmative for a variance to be approved, and we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 6, is that right, Renee, that were denied?
Yes.
I will entertain a motion for 23-15 at this time.
I'll make a motion to approve 2315.
I'll second.
This is for approval,
Correct.
even though we got 5 of the 6 questions denied. Correct, it takes us 1 for denial.
So do we not have an option to make a motion to approve?
You can, it can be voted up or down.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the variance request for 2315.
This is for approval. I'll stop there. Go ahead and,
Who was the second on that?
go ahead, go ahead. Thank you, Fred.
For the record, I got 4 of the questions were no's.
4 no's and 2
2
yeses.
yeses, yeah.
Okay. And for the record, because when the first one was denied, as chair, I could have terminated this criteria questions. I haven't. In respect to the applicant, we want to go through all 6 of these. Go ahead.
Mr. Beam?
No.
Mr. Mariano?
No.
Mr. Elia?
No.
Mr. Gardella?
Yes.
Mr. Gatliff?
Yes.
Ms. Goldman?
No.
And Mr. Kelly?
No.
So 5 no and 2 yes.
Your variance is denied, sir. I appreciate you coming up and explaining everything on behalf of your applicant. I'm glad we were able to accommodate your elevation situation. But as far as the pool that you ultimately built between you and your applicant, but thank you for at least coming before our board tonight.
Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, we will move on to variance number, I guess that's 2316, huh, Fred?
Yeah.
Where's my other? It's 2316. Yeah. Okay, consideration of the variance 2316 at 614 Belle Isle. Edward Murphy is requesting a variance from chapter 94 for zoning, section 794-220 regarding minimum living area and setbacks. The variance is to allow an encroachment of 3 feet into the minimum setback allowed by city code. Kyle, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman. So the first variance is requesting to encroach the minimum rear setback of the Belle Isle lot, which the setback in the code says it has to be 25 feet. The proposed plans is to extend an existing balcony that goes 3 feet into the rear setback.
This is an existing structure, obviously.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah, if you go through your packet, you'll see that there's a picture of the rear of the house. You'll see that there is a balcony built off.
Hey, Kyle, would it be easy for you to put up like a Google map of the property so we can see it on that billboard behind it? Or is it too much? Does it make it easy?
Good call.
It is a problem. Thank you, Kyle.
While Kyle's doing that, Renee, do you know if we received, and I didn't notice in the packet, any letters for or against this variance?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Anybody find any letters in the packet? No. Not for this one. Okay.
Yeah, 614 right in the center.
Okay, so that's what we're looking
So again, he included the whole plan document that shows the demolition of the existing balcony, and then building it back where it will encroach the 25-foot setback by 3 feet.
Is the upper balcony also being extended along with the lower patio? What's,
Well, it's the patio exists, the upper balcony and the pillars will be moved further towards the seawall.
so then the upper balcony of the picture here would also be, that's going to be extended 3
Yes.
feet? And then the lower covered patio is now going to be covered by an additional 3 feet?
Yes.
Okay.
Basically, the whole structure's going out 3 feet and 22 feet from the setback, or the seawall. Okay, thanks, Fred.
And this is to accommodate a wheelchair, or just to make it compliant with the American?
That's what the application says, but I'll let the property owner speak to that.
at. What is the width of the balcony now, 8 feet?
6
6 maybe,
I
6.
thought it was less than that. It was like 6 and change.
Okay.
Is that correct? Inside's about 4.
Looks like it's 6.3. Okay. Tight. Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions of Kyle, board members? If not, I'll ask the applicant or his representative, please come to the podium, introduce yourself, and tell us all about it.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Ed Murphy, and I'm here with my architect, so if you have any technical questions, you can probably better
Hang up on him, okay?
answer me then. I think it's pretty simple what I'm looking for, hopefully. My sister was former law enforcement. She was injured, she's disabled, and requires a wheelchair. The wheelchair will not make it out on the existing balcony. While it's about 6 feet, the inside is only about 4 feet, and there's a drop down. So I was looking to extend the balcony by another 3 feet to allow, first of all, a ramp so she can come out and go down, but then also have the room to go through the balcony in the other direction. I spoke with both my neighbors. Actually, they sent me emails, but this was a while ago, so they've not been updated, but they both said that they're okay with it.
Is that what Mr. Davis, is that one of them?
Yeah, Rudy and Don Marzano, who was on the other side.
Okay.
Uh,
I thought Rudy might be here tonight
Oh,
as a neighbor.
If you look at, on either the Google or so on, you can see that it comes out to a point, and it's curved. So it will in no way impede or block either of my neighbors or any of my neighbors' view, which I think may be the main intent of having this setback. And if you can see, I guess on the bottom of the house, there's a big hedges, right there, that you can't see through anyway. And on the other side, there's about I'm guessing about a 5 or 6 foot wall. So I think that's pretty much it. Why I'm looking for to extend the balcony.
Your assistant is able to get up on the second floor. Do you have an elevator in
A
your home,
lift.
sir?
Yeah, a lift. I hope to have someday an elevator. Yeah.
Okay.
So, assistant or sister?
Sister.
Sister. Is she the full-time resident?
No, not yet.
Not yet, but intends to be.
Sister.
This is your primary residence, sir?
It
You
is.
live there full-time?
Yes.
So the new deck is going to be completely even with the bottom of the sliding glass doors? Is that what you're trying
So
to do?
there's a little drop down for drainage.
Okay.
So when you come out, the door drops down a bit.
So will it be about the same height of what your existing travertine patio is?
Yes, yeah, and it's just the balcony itself. The house is going to remain as it is.
So the roof line and everything comes out another 3 feet from the roof line all the way down?
So the existing roof line is coming out over the 6 feet. That'll actually be cut back some, because there'd be nothing to hold it. So they want, that level, the roof level will not come out over the new existing balcony. It's going to be cut back a couple of feet away from the house.
Mr. Architect, do you care to join Mr. Murphy at the podium? He's doing a great job. We thought you might want to help out.
Yeah. So, with the design, Mr. Murphy asked us to go ahead and design the balcony so that his sister in wheelchair will be able to come through his existing sliding glass doors. And as you know, with the balconies here in Florida, we do drop them down about 4 inches to 6 inches. So with any driving rain or water, we don't want puddling up against sliding glass doors and coming into your house. So with that distance, we had to put a landing there. So in a wheelchair, you come out the sliding glass doors to a landing, which per ADA guidelines is a 5 by 5 landing, 5 foot by 5 foot.
Okay.
So she would come out to the landing, be able to turn her wheelchair, and then go down the ramp, which at a 1 to 12 slope, which is per ADA guidelines, as with a 4-inch or 6-inch drop, we would need at least a 6-foot ramp there. Depending if it's a 4-inch drop, then it would only be a 4-foot ramp that would be required. Now, as soon as she's onto the balcony, being able to transverse both sides, we would have to have enough space from the edge of that landing to the outside face. Now, with that face and going through, ADA requires a minimum of 36 inches between the space. And in this condition here with Mr. Murphy, he shared with me the wheelchair size of a sister, which is a barometric wheelchair, which is actually a 34-inch wide seat. And then outside of that, you have wheels. So it's a little bit larger than actually a 36-inch width. So when you're going by the railings and not having to hit or having a hard time going by, we increase that width a little bit slightly more, so she'll be able to get through there easily, past where those railings would be. And so that was the reason why we have the balcony out that far.
I'm sure, go ahead, Tony.
In your design, did you just design it to where you just, to the minimum that you could do it, without going further?
Like going multiple out there. So we designed it to the minimum based with, based on the railings that were designed that was picked, because the railings are actually mounted on the deck. If the railing design changed to be a face mount, then actually it would save some inches and the balcony would be able to come in. So, with the railing sizes, depending on the railing, in this certain condition and with the architecture style of the home, the railings were all deck mounted. And so that kind of added to a couple extra inches. So if it had to come in a little bit slightly, we could change railing design, which then would bring it to a more limited aspect of, instead of 3 feet, it could probably come into about 2.5 feet. So we'd save about 6 inches there.
Stand there. Kyle, I got a question for you. We're looking at an ISR, maximum impervious surface ratio per city code of 0.65 or 65%. With this variance, does it go to 88% like Larry's letter said?
So it exists at an 88 ratio, 0.88 ratio. So nothing they're doing with the expansion of the balcony is affecting what it already is.
That's where I was going with. That this thing, since it's impervious to begin with, then what we've got is impervious 0.88. Mark, okay with that?
Yeah, just a circumstance that's not going to take out.
Yeah, no water's gonna percolate anywhere. Okay, stupid question, but I want to ask it. Your column footings have got to be enormous.
Yes, they are. They're about, I believe, I can't remember off the top of my head, I think they're
It says
6 by
C schedule,
6
and
by, are they
they
6
don't
by
see
6?
I mean, they look like 3 or 4 foot.
Yeah, they're large columns going out there, so we're pouring and placing those columns
Right.
in place, and I leave that to my structural engineer to design, so I do not design those.
Okay.
I got a question.
Go ahead, David.
I understand the impervious ratio the way it is currently, so you're not increasing or, we're not asking you to decrease that, but there is a fairly wide, long patio there, deep patio, that goes along the 4 inches below the glass doors. What can't that patio accommodate that the new patio is going to accommodate if it goes out 3 feet? Because I mean, I can, you got a wheelchair, in all due respect, coming out of the glass doors. You got a circle patio there that's pretty deep, you know, wide, sideways. Is it just a matter of putting a ramp from that existing patio down to the lower patio? I mean, what's the purpose of bringing everything out 3 feet to accommodate the wheelchair?
It's just the top balcony, only the, I don't know if you can see it from here, but you can see how narrow this is here. So if, I don't know if you can picture it, but this will be coming out about 3 feet. Nothing will change with this
Okay?
bottom balcony. It'll just be this extending out 3 feet and the pillars to support it. That's it.
Yeah, it's the balcony that she has trouble. Yeah,
Your main living area is upstairs of the two balconies? Okay, so you're extending the upstairs balcony out 3 feet. Columns that are existing stay the same below.
The columns below are gonna get removed and new columns put in place that are in line with the,
The new 3-foot extension?
yes, correct.
Okay.
That's why I was asking about the size of your footing, based on David's question. These footings are big, 3 by 3 or 4 by 4, for substantial load above. Tony?
Good.
Mark?
No questions.
Mark's
Yeah,
thinking.
I'm
Mark's
surprised.
thinking.
Yeah, I am. I'm surprised you wouldn't want to cantilever over and leave the columns where they're at.
So we did look at that condition about cantilevering, but it was a desire to get the columns outboard to be even with the balcony. So that was the design preference.
Design preference. I understand. It's an awful expense, though, for a design preference.
Madam Vice Chairman, it's yours.
Okay, here we go. As the applicant, question number 1 for 23-16.
Now, is this for the impervious or is this for the 3-foot? This is for the 3-foot.
This is for the 3 foot, 3 foot,
Okay.
yeah,
So the
encroachment.
next one is 17.
Yep.
Okay, so this is 23-16. Has the applicant demonstrated that special conditions or unique circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved, which are not applicable to other similar structures or buildings in the same zoning district? Yes, the variance is approved. No, the variance is denied.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Mariano?
Yes.
Mr. Elia?
Yes.
Mr. Gardella?
Yes.
Mr. Gatliff?
Yes.
Ms. Goldman?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
7 yes.
Number 2, has the applicant demonstrated that the variance requested is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure? Yes, variance approved. No, variance denied.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Mariano?
Yes.
Mr. Elia?
Yes.
Mr. Gardella?
Yes.
Mr. Gatliff?
Yes.
Ms. Goldman?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
7 yes.
Number 3, applicant has demonstrated that granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by this chapter. Yes, the variance is approved. No, the variance denied.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Mariano?
Yes.
Mr. Elia?
Yes.
Mr. Gardella?
Yes.
Mr. Gatliff?
Yes.
Ms. Goldman?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
7 yes.
Okay. Number 4, has the applicant demonstrated that the variance requested does not change the use of the property from the use characteristics mandated for districts 1 and 2 in sections 30-51 and 94-252 in Article 4, Division 3 of this chapter? Yes, the variance is approved. No, it's denied.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Mariano?
Yes.
Mr. Elia?
Yes.
Mr. Gardella?
Yes.
Mr. Gatliff?
Yes.
Ms. Goldman?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
7 yes.
Okay, number 5, Applicant will fully comply with additional conditions and safeguards which the Board of Adjustment may prescribe, including but not limited to reasonable time limits within which the action for which a variance is required shall commence and/or be completed. Yes, the variance is approved. No, the variance is denied.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Mariano?
Yes.
Mr. Elia?
Yes.
Mr. Gardella?
Yes.
Mr. Gatliff?
Yes.
Ms. Goldman?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
7 yes.
Number 6, has the applicant demonstrated that the variance requested does not violate any provision and requirements set forth in Chapter 62 and 74 of the City Code? Yes, the variance is approved. No, the variance is denied.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Mariano?
Yes.
Mr. Elia?
Yes.
Mr. Gardella?
Yes.
Mr. Gatliff?
Yes.
Ms. Goldman?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
7 yes.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to ask on case 2316, do we have a motion for approval?
Motion approved.
Mr. Bean, do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Gatliff, thank you. Renee, if you'll call the roll.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Mariano?
Yes.
Mr. Elia?
Yes.
Mr. Gardella?
Yes.
Mr. Gatliff?
Yes.
Ms. Goldman?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes. Okay, I don't know that we need any more explanation or discussion to move on to the next variance, if that's okay with board members. Madam Vice Chair Jones again.
Sure. Here we are on 23-17. First question is, has the applicant demonstrated that special conditions or unique circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land structure or building involved and which are not applicable to other similar structures or buildings in the same zoning district? Yes, the variance is approved. No, the variance is denied.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Mariano?
Yes.
Mr. Elia?
Yes.
Mr. Gardella?
Yes.
Mr. Gatliff?
Yes.
Ms. Goldman?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
7 yes.
Number 2, has the applicant demonstrated that the variance requested is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure? Yes, the variance is approved. No, the variance is denied.
Mr. Beam?
No.
Mr. Mariano?
Yes.
Mr. Elia?
Yes.
Mr. Gardella?
The minimum.
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Gatliff?
Yes.
Ms. Goldman?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Okay, number 3, applicant has demonstrated that granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by this chapter. Variance approved is a yes. No equals variance denied.
Mr. Beam?
No.
Mr. Mariano?
Yes.
Mr. Elia?
Yes.
Mr. Gardella?
No.
Mr. Gatliff?
Yes.
Ms. Goldman?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Let's see, 2 no and 5 yes.
Okay, question number 4, has the applicant demonstrated that the variance requested does not change the use of the property from the use characteristics mandated for districts 1 and 2 in sections 30-51 and 94-252 in Article 4, Division 3 of this chapter? Yes, the variance is approved. No, the variance is denied.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Mariano?
Yes.
Mr. Elia?
Yes.
Mr. Gardella?
Yes.
Mr. Gatliff?
Yes.
Ms. Goldman?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
7 yes.
Okay, number 5, we're almost there. Applicant will comply fully with additional conditions and safeguards which the Board of Adjustment may prescribe, including but not limited to reasonable time limits within which the action for which a variance is required shall commence and/or be completed. Yes, the variance is approved. No, the variance is denied.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Mariano?
Yes.
Mr. Elia?
Yes.
Mr. Gardella?
Yes.
Mr. Gatliff?
Yes.
Ms. Goldman?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
7 yes.
Okay, number 6, has the applicant demonstrated that the variance requested does not violate any provision and requirements set forth in Chapter 62 and Chapter 74 of the City Code? Yes, variance approved. No, variance denied.
Mr. Beam? Mr. Mariano?
No.
Mr. Elia?
Yes.
Mr. Gardella?
Yes.
Mr. Gatliff?
Yes.
Ms. Goldman?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
2 noes, 5 yes.
Okay, with that 6 criteria being voted on, I will entertain a motion on 23-17.
A motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Elia. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Mariano, thank you. Renee, would we go ahead and call the roll one last time?
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Mariano?
Yes.
Mr. Elia?
Yes.
Mr. Gardella?
Yes.
Mr. Gatliff?
Yes.
Ms. Goldman?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes. Gentlemen, thank you for coming in. Both variances are approved. You did a terrific job, and wish you well with your project.
Thank you very much. Happy holidays to you.
Is there any other information the board would request? Any other questions? Any other matters that come before the board? Renee, we want to thank you for doing a great job. We hope we weren't too hard on you. We all get along. We like to keep this thing civil, and we're glad you're here. Kyle, do we see her? Does she get to see us next month, or don't we have another variance coming up?
Right now, we have no applications.
So for that,
Until someone builds a pool.
Hey, Kyle, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So what's going on with the city and all the ordinances? They're reviewing it starting the first of the year.
So we're gonna have a meeting in January. I'm looking to do it during a city council work session, where the planner is gonna come in and go over the project, what he's gonna do in the timeline. It's going to probably span out maybe 6 months, just because we're gonna have to do some meetings with the planning and zoning board to get their approval. Then it goes to city council once we get the ordinance drafted. The ordinances that are making our current code more restrictive will kind of be lined up, hopefully for October 1 to be read first and second reading.
Okay, so hopefully if everything goes right by October 1st, it'll be all complete.
No, well, it'd be November's meeting would be the second reading would be, yeah. But like I said, if we have less restrictive code, we can read that prior.
Right. So this way we can at least get some of these at the kiosk, you know?
You know if accessory structures is part of this review, or
I have it on my list.
you do?
Yeah, that's part of the zoning code, and yeah, we're going thoroughly through the construction and zoning sections.
don't you think, with all the experience this board is going through with these pool variances, that we should, as members, consider coming to the work sessions, to where these boards, to where the P&Z board doesn't know what's going on with these pools. We are more apt to help and give comment, pro and con, and recommendations as to where this new crown should be, where the next level above the crown of the road, if they so choose, where that level should be.
And finalize it at that level.
Right, right. I mean,
Or raise them.
Renee, this ordinance has only been in effect since like 2016 or so, and there was a war as to what this level should be. There was arguments between citizens. I was here at the podium being asked as a pool builder to give pros and cons. The mayor at that time didn't want to hear anything but 18 inches above the crown of the road. The engineer and I both said it should be 30 inches above the crown of the road, but there should be a much more liberal condition. And council fought it and voted it. So here we are,
Hey, Mike.
9 years later. Marv, go ahead.
The problem comes in, it's walk around the pools. You know, what should be the minimum for safety?
Right.
What the insurance companies say is a safe? You know, are we gonna have a pool with a 2-foot walk around,
Well, that's
you
where,
know, next to the seawall and then drop off 3 feet. And then you're eventually gonna hit the seawall and end up in the ocean. There's gotta be some criteria there.
well, that's part of what I was explaining to one of the pool contractors, that this the angle of repose, an accepted engineering principle, whether it's a pool adjacent to it, or whether it's a structure adjacent to it, safety was the issue. We don't want to let anybody get closer than 5 feet to a walk around. We only allow the swim out, the little 18-inch seat to be within that 5-foot area. That's all about safety. You don't want to open the door and take 2 steps and fall in the water. So we're protected on the house side, and we're tough on that. And you've heard the pool builder say, yeah, I tried to use angle of repose, but Bel Air Beach doesn't allow it. That's why we're concerned about the safety. The flip side is what you're talking about.
Exactly. And even to the north and the south, or east and west, you know, on either side of the house. If you've got a lower for drainage, you gotta have it lower to drain the water away from your residence so that there's a swale there.
Not only that,
That's,
we have it in our ordinances already, you can't put water on your neighbor's property.
that's it. But then, you know, these people wanna build a pool to the max.
Right.
So they wanna build it right up to the edge. So what do you have up, walk around the pool? And then, I think a couple of years ago, somebody requested through the insurance company looking at the property, they wanted to put a glass wall around so the kids or the people wouldn't fall off.
Right.
For a fence. But they didn't want to put a wall up because it would stop the view from the home. So we had to put this glass, okay for a glass fence. That was, what, 2, 3, 4 years ago?
Yeah.
So, I'm a software girl and I like stats. Is it worth someone taking a look at how many of these we've had? And what the ask was?
I gave the, I think it was,
Aggregating the data so that we can, when you go to these meetings, you can say, well, we've had 52 requests, same requests over and over and over again.
yeah,
It might help
I
our position.
provided the history of our variance approvals and what's come to the planner. So they're gonna take some public input, and then they're going to review the sections that we set for them to review. And based on their professional knowledge and what they've done in other communities in this area, they're gonna give their recommendations. And then at that point, it'll go to a planning and zoning board meeting where they'll kind of walk through it all. And that's where most of the discussion will occur. I encourage the Board of Adjustment to attend some of those meetings as they go through it. And I can forward, you know, the agendas and the recommendations to the board so that you can
Well,
go
if you
through it.
can send the stats, that would be helpful. I mean, to ammunition,
Yeah,
to, you know, to provoke change, you have to have that facts.
right.
Okay.
So, just real quick,
Go ahead, Mark.
before we go. Kyle, did I see an application that may have been on this agenda and possibly came off for a 2-lot split into 2 into 3?
That was,
Last month,
no, it was, yeah, it was two,
wasn't it last month?
it was 1 and the 2.
1 into 2. Did that get approved?
No.
No.
You should have been here.
I was on. Believe me, I wanted to be here for that particular one.
Last question, Kyle. Are pool builders finally waking up? This guy is. Are pool builders finally waking up to our 18-inch maximum above the crown of the road requirement on new construction coming into the city?
Well, like that pool builder said, you know, with its new construction, they're still asking for higher than the 18. And a lot of it is because they're building up, you know, FEMA wants everybody to raise their first floor living area. So they're looking at starting from higher and coming all the way down.
Right.
So more steps.
So the gentleman that spoke tonight, did he indicate that he wasn't that he came on after the fact to that project? Is that?
That's what he said.
That's what he indicated, right?
Is it-
So who is it? Gulf Coast Pool, who built that pool, do we know?
I think he said freestyle.
Sounds
The
right.
first one was tropical pool.
Yeah, tropical.
Yeah, tropical.
Freestyle is the one proposing.
I think we should tell them not to wear hats.
Yeah, that's
I think it's rude.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, historically, I know pool builders in general, with the same general, Mike, in general, regardless of what the current house looked like, they miraculously were all at 18 inches, when they built their pools, because we know that in the past, no one was checking up on that, no one was going out there and, from the city and verifying those numbers. They were taking it, on trust, so that's something that's different now. And
Right.
I think we're starting to follow up on those things, or no?
Yeah, we have better technology, and I didn't tell Mike, but I did purchase one of those tools.
Good for you.
To,
We got new toys.
yeah, it's a smart tool that you use your iPhone, but it's very accurate, and you go from a set point, it can tell you the elevation as you
Pretty
measure.
quickly, yeah.
And you can do it alone. We bought one shortly after your pool, because normal surveying or checking grades, Mark, somebody's on one end and somebody's holding the stick on the other end, and you're trying to dial it up, and you hope everything's simple, but his toy that is made in Europe, we bought one, we showed Kyle, and he can do it by himself.
Yep.
He can go out there and get stats, he can get area, square footage, he can get elevations. We haven't tried all the things, but
You get three-dimensional layouts.
yeah.
Just on your phone, you have to set the
You have,
tripod up with the,
So you have the sensor, it goes at the bottom of the stick, and then the phone sits on top, and then you walk, and it tells you where to place it and when to stop and all that, and it draws pretty much a shape of what you're measuring. It's three-dimensional.
So when he's trying to measure square footage of a driveway, or walkways, things that are on that ISR worksheet, to make it headlights, so he's confirming
yeah.
and verifying what other people have put on those worksheets.
That's good.
Be a lot easier, because this last one, after Tony mentioned something that it was higher, once I got the final elevation certificate, I just took the livable floor and I measured all the dimensions down. But it'll be a lot easier using the tool.
Right. So people can't cheat because he's got a tool that's really accurate.
Who would try and cheat?
Most pool builders. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.